In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We're live, sir.
What's going on? I feel like it's been a couple weeks since you decided to take that long vacation, so I missed you.
Aw, thanks, man. It's been a bit of a bit.
How was Ireland?
Ireland was fantastic. It was green and friendly and intoxicating, but mostly just fun. It was just a fun. It's hard. I know I sent you a couple pictures, and pictures just don't do it justice. It's a beautiful country, and everybody's just so nice in a genuine way. It's not just the fake hotel. Oh, nice to see you. I mean, everybody just stop and help you, and it was just great.
So my sister said too. She went like a month or so ago, and she said everybody was super friendly and they drank a lot.
Yeah, we. Well, you had asked that I have some Guinness for you, which I did for you, and then my sister wanted me to have some Jameson, which I did, and then other people. So I just kept going. I was just filling orders.
Did you have any of Conor McGregor's Proper 12 whiskey?
I did not.
No?
I did not. I didn't know it was his until Saturday night when I saw the fight. It was primarily Jameson and some Tullamore Dew.
Cool.
Yeah,
I did you watch the fights?
Did. Got home Saturday, took a little nap, went to a buddy's house, and watched that whole thing. What a debacle that was at the end. But it was a fun night.
Yeah.
It was a great night. We were still sort of on vacation time, so we were a little bit tired, but yeah, we made it through.
It was pretty crazy because I was in Vegas while the fights were happening. I had to go to a wedding, so I didn't get to go to the actual fight.
Right.
But as soon as I got back to the Wynn, I get dressed to go meet some friends. I walk downstairs, and there's tons of cops running in because the Irish and the Russian fans are actually fist fighting. And I'm like, get me the hell out of here. But it was nuts. It was crazy in Vegas when all that went down.
I saw some footage, some handheld footage, people putting stuff on YouTube with some of the fights going out on the street. It's just
It was
nuts.
stupid. I mean, the whole aftermath. I mean, it was one of those things where I'm a big Conor fan, but he talked a ton of shit. So Khabib jumping over the fence and going after Dylan Dennis, who's a jiu-jitsu coach, I don't think that was that big of a deal. Conor getting sucker punched, I think, was a pretty big deal because he had just got done with a four-round fight.
But he got beat down. Not after the fight, during the fight. That was kept looking for an upside, and he just wasn't there.
I heard he's going to get his rematch. I don't think it's going to go very differently because he's demanding his rematch. But yeah, I think that wrestling is a bit much for him. So
I don't think a rematch is warranted right now.
Yeah,
no.
I could go on for an hour. I won't.
I know.
But I was disappointed that he had his butt kicked. Any shout-outs before I jump to our first guest?
Yeah.
He always
my sister-in-law.
ups my shout-outs.
My sister-in-law's got a birthday coming up. So happy birthday, Sue. See you Saturday night for the celebration. And big shout-out to my beautiful girlfriend, Maggie, for putting the trip together. She and a couple of her girlfriends put the trip together that we were just on. Me and a couple other guys, we just said yes or no to a couple things, but they did everything. And I tell you what, it was just a fantastic trip, and they did everything. So thank you so much. It was awesome. That's it.
Cool. I don't have any big shout-outs today. I'll get into Nicole first, and then maybe I'll think of a shout-out. Our first guest is coming to us from FaceTime, I think.
Yes.
So we're hoping that all of you can hear her and see her. This is the first time we're going to FaceTime. Skype did not work out the last couple times. So we're going to talk to Nicole for a few minutes before we get to our in-studio guest. Nicole Marcel is of the Boys and Girls Club of Lake Tahoe and with Lake Tahoe Television. Nicole, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Dad. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So tell us what you do with the Boys and Girls Club out in Lake Tahoe, and a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club. I've done some work with them here in Chicago, and they're incredible. We've done some work with the Pilsen Boys and Girls Club through the Chicago Association of Realtors. We visited the club, hung out with the kids, and it was one of the coolest experiences I ever had. But tell us what you guys are up to and about some of the cool events that you have coming up.
Yeah, I'm the events and fundraising director here at the Boys and Girls Club of have our 25th annual golf classic over at Edgewood Golf Course, which everybody over in Chicago probably knows as like the celebrity golf tournament on NBC. So we actually, Edgewood is amazing and donates us the club. They cook make amazing breakfast and dinner afterwards, provide cocktails, and it's just a super awesome time. And we also have a silent auction online that we'll talk about in a minute. And then our other big one, it was our second annual Tahoe Brew Fest this past June. It was just amazing. I had over 30 breweries. There was over 3,000 people. It was just a killer event.
Awesome. And you're also involved in Lake Tahoe Television. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm an on-air host in the morning. So if you Lake Tahoe is not a cheap place to live. So
It's not.
most of the time you have multiple jobs. So Lake Tahoe Television and the Boys and Girls Club is two of my 4 jobs, but those two are definitely the most consistent.
Wow. And you got into communications and knew John from back in Chicago when you were doing commercials, correct?
Yeah, commercials. It was the Go Fish commercial, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And we did some scuba work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also was a lifestyle host for JVTV with Jerry and interviewed a couple bands like First Aid Kit when they first came out. They're pretty big now. So yeah, between the commercials and the JVTV and then heading out west.
Holy smokes. You are busy. I thought I was busy. And you're busy in like a lot of different ventures. So it's, you go from TV to the Boys and Girls Club, and you're dragged in a lot of different ways. Good for you.
Yeah, I have little videos I shoot during the wintertime for Heavenly Mountain Resort. They're called The Stash. So it's kind of like JVTV-esque in the fact that it's lifestyle oriented and we just snowboard around the mountain and tell people what to do. So yeah, we're a lot of hats here in Tahoe.
What's crazy is I've been to Lake Tahoe twice. I was a lot younger, and I've wanted to go back, and both times I skied at Heavenly, which was awesome.
Yeah. I used to live right by the lift. Well, one lift, and I moved a few months ago to another lift. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can just walk to go snowboarding out here. Go mountain biking. I went to the BMX park this morning. All sorts of activities.
Is the weather still nice out there?
It's nice, yeah. I'm over on the other side of the mountain right now. It's about 60. So I'd say like Tahoe's probably 50 degrees. It's about 10 degrees.
Awesome. When does the snow start kicking in there?
Anytime, honestly. It snowed at the very high peaks of like 9,000 feet already. Craziness. So we honestly could get snow at any time.
Awesome.
It could snow in July.
Well, if we decide to come skiing, we'll come talk to you for sure.
Please do.
And anything else coming up with the Boys and Girls Club that we can kind of help push? And also with the Boys and Girls Club, are they, I know they're a national club. Does each one run itself kind of independently, so it has to come up with its own funding? I've always been curious about that.
Totally independently, kind of like a franchise. We have all the different McDonald's and everything, and they're independently owned. We actually pay a fee to have the Boys and Girls Club name every year.
Really?
So yeah, we all raise our own money. Everything you provide for the kids and everything is all you.
Well, thank you for everything you do. Any advice, and part of the show is more kind of on giving people advice who want to get into a similar field. And I know you've done a lot with communication, whether it be get into the Boys and Girls Club on a level where they can contribute or into communication in general. Any advice you can give to the people who are listening?
Basically, I mean, the route I've taken in life was a lot of low pay, but a lot of experience. So just, and a lot of no's along the way as well. I was actually an education major for a while before I switched over to communications and got into television and all of that. Worked for NASCAR and Chevrolet Racing, traveling the country for a long time. So yeah, just don't give up, even if a lot of people say no, and it's whatever your passion is, keep getting as much experience as you can. And as little as it might seem, it's going to matter down the road.
Awesome. That's great advice. And that was I didn't know she was working in racing as well, because the next guy we have on, it's like the perfect bump and set
really
for me to
is.
spike. The next guy we're going to have on in a second from Extreme Experience is he's in the racing world.
Awesome. Yeah, gosh, that was a fun few years. A lot of traveling. It's like 300 days a year of traveling.
Yikes. So you're glad you're settled now in Tahoe.
Nice to be in one place, yes, but it's quite expensive
Well, Tahoe's
The
in
airport's pretty small.
right. Yeah, you have to. I was about to say you have to get to Reno and then fly out of Reno, right?
Yeah, the cheaper flights are out of Sacramento and San Francisco, so sometimes you don't feel like driving a few hours.
Yeah, it's a hike.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, thank you for coming on real quick. When you're in Chicago, we'd love to have you actually in the studio and chat with you.
Yeah,
Or
I'll let you guys know.
yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad, John, this FaceTime worked. I think we got something here.
I think so. I'm hoping that everybody's hearing what we're hearing. So
They'll
we'll find
usually
out, I'm
tell
sure.
us if they're not hearing. Someone will
Yeah,
text us and tell us,
for
hey,
sure.
nobody can hear. So thank you so much for coming on, Nicole, and we'll let you go because I think you're in your car.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Oh,
Drive safe.
absolutely. Bye-bye, Nicole.
Bye.
Bye.
Look at that, John. You
are good.
you made that FaceTime work.
Well, hopefully, yeah, like I said, hopefully everybody heard us. I think that, like you said, we usually find out if people can't hear, they usually will chime in and tell us.
Yeah, Coach Quick's listening, and he would have probably told us he couldn't hear. He's talking about the McGregor fight, but we'll talk about the McGregor fight to Coach Quick later on because I'm probably, we always say every week I could talk for 2, 3, 4 hours with a guest, but the next topic is the topic that's near and dear to me. It's auto racing and fast and cool cars, and then the business side of it as well. So Adam Olalde, right? I didn't goof it up. From Extreme Experience, thanks for coming on. Tell
Glad to
us
be
what
here.
you guys do at Extreme Experience. I don't want to butcher it. You probably have a better pitch and story of what you guys do. So what is it you guys do?
To keep it high level, we provide driving and racing experiences to, quite honestly, the unqualified but very willing, willing participant all over North America. We're the largest provider of it, and we've been doing it for 6 years now.
Very cool. And you say almost unqualified. What's funny is, and I've instructed racing schools, I feel like everybody thinks they're better at driving cars fast than they actually are.
And that's true.
Yeah.
They are better at thinking they're faster than they actually
Yeah.
are. The good part about a racetrack is it's the great equalizer.
It really
The
is.
minute you get out there, you remember that you've never been here before.
Yeah.
And no, I don't care how fast you've gone in your Subaru or your SHO. A straight line on a highway is very different than a straight line with a quick right-hand turn.
Yeah.
And a more turn after that.
So you guys do the experiences all across the country, correct?
We do. We've gone as far south as Central America. We've driven in
Oh, really?
Guatemala and all the way north as Canada and everything in between.
Crazy. I didn't know you guys actually went that far south with the cars.
It's sporadic,
Okay.
generally more project-based. If we go Central America, we have partners, marketing and advertising partners that might hire us to go there to promote a product or something like that. It's not part of the normal tour stop. That's an aggressive move to put cars in crates on ships, but we have done it and we can do it again. Canada is part of our normal tour operation.
Okay. Do you travel to all those spots yourself too?
I did.
Yeah.
But just like Nicole mentioned, 300 days a year on the road was going to take a toll on my life. So I did it for a few years as we were getting the program up and running, and I've got a fantastic team that now does all that traveling for me.
And you're Chicago based then?
Chicago-based office is right up in Bucktown.
Oh, very cool. And what kind of cars can people drive? So if somebody wants to come and do the experience, what are they getting themselves into car-wise?
I always put my foot in my mouth a little bit when I answer this question
Okay.
because to me, I always say the mid-level exotics, and they say, what does that mean? And I say, 488s, 458s, Ferraris, GT3s, Lamborghini Huracans. And they're like, if that's a mid-level supercar, what am I missing? And I'm like, time out. That's the best.
Yes.
This is what you can drive. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, Audi R8s, Acura NSX, Nissan GTR, all those things. I just mean I don't have a Bugatti yet, and I may
Right.
not have one soon. But if it costs under $500,000, we'll have it.
That's awesome. And what I love about what you guys do is the rates are so affordable. And coming from a background of doing this stuff, and we were talking off air for a second, the cost of, set aside having to buy one of these things, like very few people have $250,000 or $300,000 to go buy a 488. But when they get out there and they're able to drive the car fast on a racetrack, I feel like by the time you factor in tires, the brakes that you guys go through, fuel for those cars, because you go through fuel pretty fast, and just maintenance and engines and rebuilds and stuff, it costs you guys a lot of money, and you guys are still able to give that sort of experience to somebody at a few $100s as the starting point, correct?
It is. We made a commitment back 6 years ago that we would make this convenient by bringing it to you, and we would make it affordable by keeping it within what we thought was a fair range to have the opportunity to do this type of thing. Actually, in the beginning, we only charged $150. We were upside down,
That's
but
crazy.
I wasn't going to not deliver those experiences. So
Right.
we said, hey, we will continue to do this. Because what I forgot to factor in, and you didn't mention, was the price of the racetrack.
Yeah, renting a racetrack's not cheap.
I mean, a racetrack might be $15,000 a day, plus an EMT that we're not ever going to use, but has to be there is $1,000
Right.
a day. So you start to add up all these expenses, and we said, okay, this thing needs to kind of float back to about $300, and $300 gives you the experience on the racetrack, which is 3 laps, 4 laps in some locations. We try to keep the mileage equivalent, plus a classroom session, a right-hand seat instructor, all the safety equipment, and we think that's fair. And as long as we keep the price of the car under $1 million, then we're in good shape.
You mentioned it, the racetrack too. I didn't mention it. It's crazy how many costs go into you guys being able to give this experience to somebody. And I reiterate it to all my friends who, I get a lot of friends who reach out to me, Mo, I want to drive a car on a racetrack. And what do I have to do to get my street car to a racetrack? I tell them, well, you got to upgrade your brakes and you got to get different tires and you might want to get, safety stuff. For you guys to be able to just have somebody show up, let's say to the Autobahn this weekend, and we'll talk about that, and they show up, you guys give them a helmet, I'm guessing, some instruction, and an instructor that's a very high-level instructor, because I know some of the guys that have instructed with you guys, and say, hey, here you go. That's such a better use of your money than trying to take your street car that shouldn't be on a racetrack and spending thousands of dollars to figure out if this is something you like.
There's a 99.9% chance that if you were to try that, you'd still fall short somewhere. You
Right.
would cut a corner you wouldn't know about, or you'd say, I have to give up something to invest in something else. We're just kind of buying in bulk for you. We can buy the Ferrari, and we can say, you get to drive it, and you get to drive it, and you get to drive it. We have the full-time tech there, the racetrack rented, the supplies ready to go, and that because of that are able to offer it at a price that's reasonable for everybody. And that's our competitive advantage, is that we do it that way and allow so many folks to come drive with us.
Which is great. I mean, again, I'm reiterating and I'm beating a dead horse almost. It's impossible for somebody, and I mean this because I've spent a small fortune on racing, it's impossible for somebody to get that experience on their own without spending tens of thousands of dollars just to be able to get their car ready to go on the racetrack. So like you said, you guys do it on a bulk basis, and you figured out where you have to go, when you have to rent tracks, and are able to give that experience. And not to diminish, the level of instruction you guys have is above and beyond what most people can get at a club. And I've instructed at clubs before, and no knock to the club people who are probably like, hey, you've instructed at our clubs. But
Right.
the average Joe Schmo who does 10 or 15 or 20 track days, that's like, well, I feel like I'm an instructor now, and they just don't have enough instructors for the novices. They put them right seat with a guy, and then he teaches them shit ways to drive a car around a racetrack. You guys like Josh Balicki, who's a Facebook friend, and he might be watching. He's a guy who I know has done some stuff with you guys, and you guys have had IMSA guys, Pearly World Challenge guys, NASCAR guys. There is a huge difference in what they can effectively teach somebody than just the guy who has done more track days than you.
There is, and to give them some major props, we don't just take the talent, but we take the talent and then we mentor the talent and we assimilate the talent into our program. So even if you are Josh or Cam or anybody who might be watching who does NASCAR, that's a great resume, but we still bring you into our program, and you sit right seat with one of our lead instructors. We have tiers of instructors because our lead instructors fly around the country with us because they know the tracks, they know the programs, they know the communication, they know the customer, and they will teach someone with a resume how to also know that same thing before they're even allowed to go instruct in our program. So wherever you come from and however qualified you are, we still put you through our program. We work very closely with Ross Bentley in trying to accredit and qualify our safety initiatives, because not only do we want to be able to deliver a safe experience, but we want the industry to follow our lead. We have a responsibility, quite honestly, to keep our customers safe, but to help keep other customers of other programs safe as well. It's good for the industry, and it's good for the perpetuity of what we're trying to do, which is let people try cool new things in ways they never have before.
That's amazing. And you touched on something. There's really good drivers that also cannot effectively communicate the way that I'm sure you guys are holding your instructors to a certain communication standard and be able to get across like, hey, this is what you should do. So I didn't even know you guys did that. And for those of you listening, there is a big difference between somebody who's going to sit on the right seat and be able to communicate to you, and then somebody who's just a really good race car driver who can just go there and just drive the car
we know
fast.
that good race car drivers don't immediately translate into good instructors, and so our mission is to make sure that they can do both, which is show you a good time and also keep you safe.
And yeah, the safety part's huge too. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize, when they jump in from let's say a Subaru, like even a fast one, a WRX. Somebody grabs a WRX STI and they just drive that thing around the streets fast. When you jump into a 610 horsepower Huracan or a 488 or even a GT3, there is a gigantic difference in how fast things occur, and to be able to do that effectively on a racetrack and keep people safe is awesome.
It is if anything keeps me up at night, it's trying to figure out better ways to do that and better ways to keep people safe. We have an amazing track record, and I'll continue to knock on wood, but as the cars get faster, just like you mentioned, things happen quicker or the power is it requires more to manage. So we're not going to stop delivering the newest, hottest supercars, and Ferrari's not going to stop giving it more horsepower. So we got to figure out how to do it safely.
I'm more afraid to instruct now than I ever have been because the speeds of cars are getting faster. I was at Road America with a guy who had a 911 Turbo S, and at the end of the straight, it's 170 miles an hour almost. And I'm like, well, and I got a lap belt, and I'm like, it's freaking me half to death.
Right.
And yeah, you guys have to stay on top of that because, like you said, Ferrari's next car is going to be faster. Porsche's next GT3 is faster. Lamborghini's next car is going to be a whole heck of a lot faster.
I mean, we're adding the Hellcat to our program, 707 horsepower. So that's more powerful than that Huracan.
Yeah.
How do I manage that? Because I know you want to drive it. Right?
Yeah, well, that's frightening. Poor guys that got a sit right seat.
I always say I spend a lot of time talking to our guests prior to their driving experience or after their driving experience, and they always say, am I going to see you in the car? And I said, no, that's for the crazy ones.
Yep.
I'm here because I'm good with people. They're there because they're good at driving. So
yeah.
we each
and
have our place.
have a good stomach and don't get motion sickness.
Above all, that's the big thing.
Do you have a favorite car? I got to ask you because you're a car.
I know. I get asked every time, and I try to change my answer every time.
Yeah.
So I have my answer ready. My favorite all-time supercar, if I had it in my garage forever, would be the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG Black Series.
Okay.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah.
It's a powerful car.
Fast.
It's fast. It's got all the things I like in a car.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cars I've driven on the racetrack is the new Acura NSX.
Really?
I like the balance, not having invested a small fortune or a regular size fortune in racing, other than extreme experience.
I was
of
going
course.
to say, you
have
invested a big
but
fortune.
not personally, not for personal gain. I like that car because it's reasonably priced. It's a well-balanced car. You can give it a lot of power and enjoy it without it being too much power, like that Turbo S you mentioned. And if I had to take them off the track, which you're not allowed to do in our program, but I could choose one to drive off the track every day, it would just be a Lamborghini because
they're cool.
They're cool.
They're awesome.
Why not park a Lamborghini in your garage?
Awesome.
There's, it's our most popular car for a reason because it's got that mysterious allure.
Yeah, everybody wanted. It's the I forget the old Frank Sinatra quote about like making it and you eventually buy a Lamborghini or something.
I don't know either.
It's a Lamborghini. Lamborghinis are. I've driven some of those cars and. Lamborghinis, even to a Ferrari, they just get more attention. They're just a cool car.
And if you do your research on Lamborghini versus Ferrari, clearly the brand pales in comparison.
Sure,
There's no racing legacy. They make a fraction of the amount of cars every year. They've since sold themselves, but it doesn't matter. Everyone had. What did you have hanging on your wall as a kid? A poster of a what? It was definitely a Lamborghini, a Countach, a Diablo, before it was a Ferrari, for most of us. I know there's Ferrari people out there, so not to downplay that.
So I'm a Porsche guy through and through. That's my car brand. That's what I'm loyal to. But if I could have one supercar, it'd be a Ferrari F40. Just because I think it's it was the first modern supercar that just was fast and it still was analog. So that's a car, but it keeps getting more and more expensive. So it's going to get so far out of reach by the time I can afford one that it's going to be silly. It's going to be like a McLaren F1.
They already are out of reach.
Yeah,
now
way out of reach.
your entry level Ferrari is a 488 that MSRP is for high 300s. I mean,
crazy.
It's crazy, which means that our program at 0.01% of that price is how you're going to drive these cars.
Yeah, I still can't believe when I look at prices of what you guys are offering to drive the cars that you drive, because again, just fuel at a racetrack. I mean, or fuel that you guys are going to go through. Even if you bought the fuel at, the BP that's down the street and you brought it over, you go through so much fuel when you're on a racetrack, and fuel is expensive. And, people don't realize you could go to a racetrack in your car for a day and spend a couple $100 in fuel.
At least.
Yeah, at least.
We were at Road America last weekend, and I went up for the day to support the team. And they said, Adam, are you free today? And I said, sure, whatever you need, guys. And they said, today I need you to be on fuel. We have 110-gallon drop tanks. We keep them in the pit lane. You just need to keep it full by running back to the big tank and filling that tank up. I bet we filled the 110 drop tank 5 times in a day.
Shit.
It costs $400 to fill 110 gallons at 93 octane prices. So do quick math.
Right.
And there's your point.
Very expensive. So it's insane that you're able to still keep those price points and get the cars that you guys have out there. How many cities are you guys in now?
2019, we'll wrap up about 30 different events in about 22 cities. We go back to some of our major markets twice.
Okay.
In 2019, we'll hit about 50 events in about 36 cities.
And were you always a car guy? How did you get into this? Because I always, as a kid, I've been a car guy since I was a little kid, and always into racing, did go-karts and a ton of other stuff. And I was always fascinated about how this sort of business gets started, because I'm a business guy, and we'll touch on the business side of things. But how did you get into it?
A car guy to the extent that every little boy is a car guy.
Yeah.
I went to the car show with my dad, and I had the poster. Mine was a Corvette C4 hanging up on the wall. That was my dream car until I realized there were dream cars out there.
Yeah.
Not to downplay the Corvette, but different levels.
ZR1's cool. Have you driven that?
I haven't driven that. I'd love to drive that.
I haven't driven that. I've driven the new Z06. It's fast.
We've owned all the C7s, and everybody keeps saying, so what about the mid-engine car? Are we in line? I'm like, well, let's talk about it when it gets out. But I was not in the car business originally. I was in sales. We can talk more about that if necessary, but I ended up meeting someone in the luxury car rental business, and they kind of said, hey, we want to do luxury car rentals. It's a newer concept, popular in the major cities. Chicago should be one of them. And I said, you know what? As a sales guy who's not into cars, would love to get into something a little bit more passionate, and let's see if we can spread the news. And it just so turned out that in Chicago specifically, while you and I may have interest in renting a Lamborghini for a weekend or a Rolls Royce for a day, it wasn't as practical with the seasons. That's not Chicago. That's not who we are here.
Right.
But everyone wanted to test drive it for a birthday, for a present, for a special occasion. And so we said, let's figure out a way to do that. And we did. We found at first that we could try to do minimal test drives on the street. Chicago traffic and weather, previously alluded to, made that not the perfect solution. We finally found the Audubon Country Club in Joliet, rented it out, and said, for $150, do you want to test drive these cars? And everybody said, heck yeah. So we've evolved the program since then, but we left the rental business behind and said, let's take this experience everywhere. And that's what we're in the process of doing.
Very cool. So it started at the Audubon. It started here in Chicago?
The Audubon was the first event we ever hosted. It was under the luxury rental company brand because we were still operating under that umbrella while we started this whole thing. And I didn't even know the Audubon existed, but I had friends who were members, kind of like, you had driven there and said, hey, I've been this place one time. You should go check it out. So we went down there with our Corvette. It was not a C4. It might have been a 6, I think, at the time. But the point is we took down the flashiest car I could get my hands on at the time and showed up like I knew what I was talking about. I pulled through the gates, and, of course, everyone's got race cars, and so my C6 didn't mean anything anymore. Yeah. But I was there, and I said, okay, can we rent this thing? And they put the price on the table, and I said, okay.
Yeah, that's a big
I know how are we going to do this? And the way to do it was to pick a date far enough out where I could sell tickets between now and then, come up with the cash, pay for the racetrack. And that's what we did. And I just kind of backed myself into a corner where I said, I signed the contract, so I better sell enough tickets, and I got to work. And
that's crazy. Grassroots too.
That's how we do it.
That's insane.
We don't owe people money. We did this thing from the ground up.
Good for you guys. And for those of you listening, a lot of my friends, I can see them watching, are track guys, they've been to the Autobahn. But for those of you that haven't been to the Autobahn, it's a country club in Joliet that's for race car driving. So it's for people who like driving fast. They have 3 track variations, go-kart tracks. They have a north track, south track, full track, and then you can do autocross stuff in the paddock now. And they're constantly expanding. They got garages. They're selling real estate there now.
The condos there are more expensive than half the homes on the block here.
Yeah, I get the newsletter all the time about buy a condo here, buy a condo there, and I don't have a membership. It's something I want to do at some point. But like you, I had friends, Sean Young, who runs Laps Inc., which is a racing school, and before that, we were doing this PDI where we'd show up and just instruct there. So I had gone there and I'm like, what a fascinating idea to have a country club where people can take their cars and go race. Now, you can't just get into the Autobahn Country Club for $350 if you're just the average person. The memberships there are tens of thousands of dollars depending on the level, and then several $1,000s a year. So to have the benefit of going there and spending even a day there, I mean, the cool part is I didn't even think about that. For $350, not only do you get to go drive that cool car on a very nice racetrack in Joliet. It's I've been to a lot of racetracks, and Autobahns. It's a great track. It's a fun track to drive, but the facilities are amazing too.
Yeah.
You get to go spend some time at that facility. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a members only country club. So included in your price is to get to hang out at a really cool country club for the day.
Yeah, it's not far from here. It's about 50 minutes from the city.
It depends on the time you leave, but yeah, it's about 50 minutes from the city. Just shoot down straight 57 to 80.
And you guys have something going on there this weekend?
We do. We are attempting to set up right now. A little bit rainy, but that's okay. We're not on track. So we'll be there setting up today. We'll be running all day tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And people can get tickets for any one of those days still?
Yeah, I recommend going to the website, www.xxspeed.com, to check out what our availability is. Don't make the drive in case your car isn't available. Part of the program that makes it fun for you and fun for us is that we let you select the reservation. Choose your time, your car, the day you want to drive, so that when you get there, your car's ready for you. But on our website, you can see all that. You can always show up and just see what's available if you're in the neighborhood, but check out the website first.
What's the most popular car that people choose? Is it the Lambo?
It's the Lamborghini Huracan.
It's a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
What about after that, Ferrari?
458, which may or may not be a product of the fact that I have more 458s than 488s. Next year we'll have more 488s, and we'll see. Such a significant portion of our tickets are purchased as gifts, and so they're purchased for someone who they know loves cars. And it's which Ferrari does he love? I don't remember. We'll pick one, the newer one, or the more red one.
The exotic looking one.
So it's Lamborghini for sure. Then it's the Ferrari, and then it's the Porsche GT3.
Okay. I'm a Porsche guy, so if I was out there, I'd probably pick the GT3. But again, like you said, it's a gift for a lot of people.
It is,
and it makes a great gift. So for wives, girlfriends, or husbands whose girlfriend or wife likes cars, go on their website. You guys have a cool promo that you guys are letting us share. It's Save 50 now. You'll save $50 more for this weekend's. John, are you sharing that?
I'm going to.
He's going to share it, and if not, we'll put the actual promo in the comment section. So go and enjoy the insane deal that these guys put on for you guys at the Autobahn. And you have all three of those cars, the GT3, Huracan, and one of those this weekend?
Everybody's there this weekend. 2 models of Ferrari, Lamborghini, the R8, the GTR.
Yeah, I'm forgetting about those other cool cars.
Yeah,
we
got a lot of other really cool cars.
R8.
One of the things I want to mention is that bring people, because we know that this is a gift or this is for someone else, but you made the journey and you might just want to try your first racetrack. So if you don't feel like driving, we'll happily give you a ride. In fact, all those instructors love when they get the call on the radio that we have a ride along, because now they get to show you how cool they are.
Yeah.
But we also have track prep Chevy SSs that we put out there on the racetrack. So you can go ride along with somebody and we will just whip you around, hot lap you, and show you what a racetrack is really like when driven by a pro. And we take these Corvette engine Chevys, tune them up, camber them out, and send them out on the track with our best drivers. So anybody can get out there.
Cool
it's pretty cool.
That's fun. I mean, again, if you have like a friend or somebody else that just wants to go there, hang out, and just get on the racetrack, that's a great way just to. I mean, Listen, my opinion is if you're going to go do this, do both. Do a couple laps with a pro. Because
Do that one first.
Do
learn
that
the track.
first. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And then jump in the car.
Yeah.
Do you guys do kind of like a lead follow too?
We do a lead follow, so that car always goes first.
Okay.
And everyone's like, well, I'm going to catch him. We'll see what the comments say.
Yeah.
If you're the first guy to catch that lead car, I'll give you your supercar for free. But we allow passing within the field. Our instructors coordinate all that, so it's safe. But
Radio each other.
yeah, we take care of all that, and we go out in different groups, so the track's never super crowded. That car is always, well, there's one in front and one in back. Call them the track, safety marshals or whatever. But they're just there to make sure everything goes cool and to provide awesome ride-alongs, so you could chase your dad, your brother, your mom, whatever, in the supercar.
Yeah, it's yeah. I bet you get a lot of people saying, "I'm in a Lamborghini. I'm going to catch that thing." We had a bachelor party years ago, and we did it at the Audubon years and years ago, where we did a bunch of our friends went out and they didn't race cars, so we had an autocross and then kind of a lead follow session. And the joke was that if any of them could catch me in any of the stuff or could beat me in the and I hadn't autocrossed in ages.
Yeah.
So when you don't autocross in ages, you kind of that's a totally different thing that I had to pay for all dinner, all drinks for the rest of the bachelor party. And thankfully, I squeaked out a win on the autocross.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I was going to pay. But
move.
I think people get there, and like we said at the beginning, everybody thinks they're a little bit faster than they are. So I recommend ride with the instructors, get a feel for where the track goes, and then jump in the car. Because I feel like it'll be a lot more.
Well, you know what to do. You know where to brake. You know where to turn. You know what to look for. You've seen it before. And you know what? Take your 610 horsepower, because a fast car does not make you fast. You make a car fast.
Exactly. And you guys have classroom instruction, too, at the beginning, right? That kind of gives you an idea.
Nobody
of what
gets a
you
free
should do.
pass to jump in a car. And we always say, look, if you've got a ton of track experience, that's great. Get to know our program so you know what to expect when you're out there driving. We want to make you better, too. You know, it's all about education. And if you've never been on track, then sit through class so that you're not scared. You're going to have a good time. You're going to be safe. But we all got to be on the same page.
Yeah, and I mean, it's safety. And I've sat through stuff where I'd been racing for, almost 2 decades, and I sat through the classroom portion because that's the rule of that. So if you've raced before, then sit there and listen to as much of it as you want, and then eventually you'll be in a race car.
We use our own hand signals. We have our own camera systems. There's things you need to know.
Keeping things safe.
Just don't think you're too good for something, because that's when you get in trouble.
What do you guys do on the West Coast, like different spots in the West Coast?
We
popular out there, I'm guessing.
I just saw a call from Sonoma come in, so I got to call them back. But we do the Pacific Northeast. Northwest. Pacific Northeast would be a unique location.
Yeah.
The Northwest, Vancouver, Portland, Seattle, working on Sonoma, Los Angeles. As we make our way down, you got to come in east a little bit, Scottsdale, Colorado, Colorado Springs. There's tracks get a little bit scarce over there, but that's plenty of activity on the West Coast before you make your way to the Midwest and the South. Are pretty heavy on the South, and then, of course, the East Coast. And
then in the South, you guys have probably all the Florida, Atlanta.
We have a full-time office in New Orleans. You can show up and drive there 5 days a week. Anytime you want, because we wanted to, in addition to our touring stops, have somewhere that the tourists could go visit when they were in town visiting the Big Easy. Just go race a car before Bourbon Street, and then visit us in Texas, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Nashville. We're all over.
You guys are so busy. I mean, it's just knowing the amount of setup and transport and how much it takes to organize all of that, even on a little level when I'm just doing it for me. It's so much dotting your I's and crossing your T's that I hang my hat to you guys. I mean, it's, and we'll touch on in a second on kind of your background when you started in sales and stuff and how it got you to the organizational I want to almost call it a cluster F, and I'm sure at times you think it's an organizational cluster F, at least when you started, and it's probably become much, much easier now because you guys have worked really hard at it to actually be able to put this stuff on in so many different locations.
It's sometimes I forget because, when we first began, it was my buddy in his F-150, and we just grabbed whatever tools I had in my garage and said, all right, we're going to go do this. We should be fine, right? And then we got to the track and realized we hadn't even scraped the surface of what's necessary to do this type of thing. And then we went to our first, trailer, which was probably this go-kart trailer.
Yeah.
You pull it behind the truck and it could fit a few lawnmowers. And we put some wheels in there, and then we got a bigger trailer, and now we've got 4 Kentucky enclosed trailers, and I came out of a meeting this morning where we're buying 4 more because next year we're going to need 8 or more 53-foot haulers to carry this stuff around the country. So I forget how much logistics goes into it sometimes because I'm like, sure, let's just do 20 new markets. And everyone behind me is like, Adam, are you thinking about? But the good part is that over the years, we've figured out how to do it. Maybe it was our challenge in the beginning to say we can't drive in Chicago year round, so we're going to have to take this program on the road. That, you know what, we just figured it out, and here we are.
When did you guys start?
We started, our first event was in August of 2012.
Wow, you guys have come a long way in 6 years, because 6 years is a long time, and I feel like you're probably like so much has happened in 6 years. But for a business to go from you literally putting everything in an F-150 to what you guys have now, it's exponential crazy growth, which is awesome. Hats off to you guys. Most racing schools have one location and they stay put. And that makes logistics really easy when you're just at the same racetrack all the time. But for anybody listening, I mean, the average person probably can't appreciate what you guys have gone through to go from what you guys were 6 years ago to today. So congrats on that.
That's the fun part about this journey, where it's a whole company full of entrepreneurs. Because when I go to the team and say, hey, you've been really fantastic at scaling us to 25 locations. Next year we're going to 50. They're like, okay, well, we have to own our world. And our world might be trucking. Our world might be instructors. Our pool of instructors is international at this point because we have to have those guys and girls everywhere trained and ready to go. So there are a lot of different ecosystems at play here, but when they come together at Extreme Experience, we can deliver.
That's great. Well, we got our one sponsor. We have like a little mortgage minute for him, so we're going to do that and come back to you because we have to start paying some bills in this place too. So John, since I'm still kind of an amateur at when this is going to start, just give me the signal that it's on. But before we do that, shout out again to Matt Rosen of Neighborhood Loans. He is a close friend of mine, and like I've mentioned the last few weeks, he is a rock star mortgage guy, and I don't say this just to say it. Dude's never failed to close a loan. You call him any time of the day, he picks up. He's just an amazing guy. So if you guys have any mortgage needs, give Matt a call. I trust him with my business. Our agents trust him with their client's business, and he's just a rock star dude. So take it away, John.
Hi, I'm Matt Rosen of Neighborhood Loans, here to share with you today's Mortgage Minute. Know the difference between a simple pre-qualification and a real pre-approval. The initial pre-qualification usually consists of a short conversation where the lender gets basic information and then may or may not even run your credit. A full pre-approval always consists of running your credit and then verifying your information by collecting the income and asset documentation up front. When speaking to a mortgage professional, always make sure that these steps have been taken in order to guarantee a full pre-approval. For more information or to get the process started, please feel free to contact me using the information on the screen. I'm Matt Rosen, and that's today's Mortgage Minute.
And I'm back, John. Thanks again, Matt. I think Matt really likes seeing himself on these things because Matt's one of our biggest fans, so he watches it. So I think Matt's really happy now that he gets to see a little 1-minute clip of himself every time we do one.
He
of
did
these
great.
things.
He was a little
I would
leery,
pay
but
for
he does
that.
great.
Yeah, how much are we talking?
Yeah, it's actually very affordable. We could do one with you in a race car. Do you doing donuts and a Hellcat?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool.
I do all the production. So he's like, oh, you can do this, we can do that.
John, we're going to go out the Autobahn. We'll just do burnouts.
That's how sales work,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Yeah, we'll say yes,
We
deliver.
got to sell them on it. We're going to.
Where do you think this came from? I told 1,000 people they could test drive supercars, and then I went back to the team, and they said, you have no supercars. And I said,
How did
We'll get there.
were you always the type of guy who wanted to be a business owner? Because this was like I mentioned, a big undertaking.
I don't know that, well, I'm sure now, as we dive really hard into the millennials coming into the business world, that's like a major. But that wasn't an idea when we were growing up, was to be an entrepreneur, I don't think. My dad was a 9-to-5 guy, and that's how I was trained and went to college for. But I got into sales because I didn't know what I was good at other than talking to people and just getting along with folks, which was great in college, but in the real world, I wasn't sure where that was applicable. So I got into sales and became successful in sales. And what that taught me was that essentially in sales, you're your own boss anyway. You eat what you kill, and you can cash the check that you earn. So if that's the case, why not try my hand at entrepreneurship. So when I went into the rental car business, I didn't own the business, but I knew that make or break was kind of up to me. And so that was kind of like the last straw on the camel's back that got me to entrepreneurship. And that was when I really decided that, hey, and I was still young. I was 25 years old, but I said, hey, I've understood sales. So what's worst case scenario? I go back out there and I push product and okay, fine.
Sure.
But if this works out really well, I actually like people. I like management and leadership. If I can tie that into sales, that sure sounds like entrepreneurship to me.
Well, and you definitely have the stomach for risk. I mean, signing that contract, your first contract at the Autobahn, and then having to fill almost that order, and having the stomach for risk to take on such I want to say an overhead heavy business. I mean, it's I feel like a lot of people don't become entrepreneurs or business owners because they can't stomach the risk, or they're too fearful to do what you did. I mean, I know how expensive the Autobahn is. Back then it was probably a little bit less than now, but it wasn't inexpensive.
Yeah.
But to be able to see that and say, well, now I got, several months to fill this, and you were charging $150, a session.
I made it twice as hard on myself then as it is now.
Yeah.
I've always been a type of guy who just said, failure's not an option. It may not be the result at the end of the day that I had initially had envisioned, but that doesn't mean I can't figure out my way to get there. And, quite honestly, that's what this has been. 6 years of us saying, we know we want to deliver and we know we can deliver, but we're going to have to get used to making an adaptation along the way. And because we do that, we stay nimble and we keep moving.
Well, I can't wait to watch what happens in the next 5, 6, 7 years with you guys, because to go from that, having a C6 and a F-150 to having the fleet you guys have now in 29 different markets, that's crazy. And I imagine the Bugattis and all the rest of the crazy stuff's going to come soon.
Probably
but
not
a
too far.
Bugatti's a kind of crazy thing, because the maintenance on them is so much out of line with a Ferrari or a Lamborghini that it's crazy. It's like the tires cost what, $30,000?
Something crazy like that.
Stupid like that.
And I don't know if it's we'll see. We'll see, because it's going to be interesting to figure out where the future of this is. Is the future of this manufacturer saying we want all those enthusiasts to test our product, so here, put it in their hands? Is the future going to be our drivers coming back and saying, I've checked off everything you got. What else do you got? I'm willing to pay for it. So those $30,000 tires amortized over a day and a half. Here's the ticket price of that Bugatti.
Keep the crazy key out of that car, by the way.
Believe me, there's a couple different keys. Believe me, I would love to get that car or any of those cars. But the point is that our program is highly developed by the feedback we get from our customers, from our drivers, because that's why this was created in the first place.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see. And we have the full capability with 50 plus distribution channels now to say, hey, if the feedback I'm getting is you want to try ATVs, or you want to try helicopters, or you want to drive a tank, or dig a big hole in the ground with a backhoe, you know what? It's just as crazy as getting a Ferrari at 26. And so I'll put my money behind it, and now that we can deliver it, I'll figure out a way.
Have you seen that? And I don't recommend this to people just off of their couches to go do this. Have you seen there's a school that's trying to come to Sebring, maybe, that's doing a backdated Formula One car?
I have.
That to me is like
they actually reached out to us.
Okay.
They're from Spain.
Yeah, they do it in Europe.
Yeah,
I've seen
Spain
it in Italy. I was in Italy this year, and I actually.
You're right. It is
time was
they're
just
running
a little
Monza
bit.
and a couple of the other.
Yeah,
tracks
my
up
time
there.
was just a bit off because I was like, I'm gonna go do it, and the price point's way, way, way higher. I mean, it's several $1,000s.
They reached out. I'm familiar with them. A good group of guys. They essentially, like Skip Barber or even Bondurant, wanted to teach you how to be a race car driver, and that's where they got these formula cars. And the formula cars kind of turned into more of our customers are still asking to test drive these GT cars. So could we put a couple GT cars in our program? Then they looked at America and said, maybe America needs a formula program. Saw our GT program and said, maybe these guys should run it for us. And I said, well, if you're going to come onto my soil, I'll just get the formula cars and we'll do this. But no, we'll see if they're successful. They're going to try the Florida market, which is great. And we'll link up with them somewhere along the way and see if we can't. If you want to drive one of our cars and then go learn how to race one of those cars, we'll happily hand you off.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's got to be a totally different market of person. And I don't recommend. It would be very, and this is my just driving experience. I've driven an open wheel car before. Very unenjoyable for the person who wants to go drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and enjoy themselves in a day and be relaxed to jump into something like a Formula car. They won't have fun. I don't think they'll have that much fun. It'll be a very frightening and almost frustrating thing, because people don't realize, like, those cars are very aero heavy. So the way you're driving through a corner, you're gonna be like, oh, this thing sucks, but you're just not going fast enough, and you don't have the experience to just jump in that car and go really fast. It doesn't translate well to.
And you don't have the equipment. You don't have the. Right. I mean, you might be in pain. You might be the wrong size.
Yeah.
Those are all.
I'm almost too fat to fit in them. I want to get a Formula Mazda because they're becoming relatively inexpensive, and the Autobahn has a couple for
it's
sale.
A little motivation now.
Yeah, I gotta lose some.
Are you getting in wedding? No, I'm getting in race car shape.
Yeah.
But that's true, and we've been the type of guys all along who have wanted to cater to the bucket listers, the enthusiasts, the wow that looks cool, the gift givers, and I would like to grow our program and develop our program to cater to more of those people, because I think that everyone deserves the chance to do something really cool. Nobody owns these things, in the grand scheme of things. So if we can be your portal to get these things, then great. If you want to go race a car, you're in a different ballgame anyway, so I can introduce you to the right people, but I pose no threat to the Bondurant or Skip Barber. In fact, I'm opening the door to thousands of people every year who might be interested.
There is not a cooler experience for somebody who has never done it to get on a racetrack and drive a car, and you guys are giving them that experience, but in a car that, like we said, for the most part, almost nobody's going to get in to drive. You can't just walk into Lake Forest sports cars and say, hey, I'd like to just test drive this 488. And they're just like, hey, here you go. Good luck. Take it out.
Believe it or not, I go by a lot of these cars, and I walk in, and they're like, no.
You're a young guy.
Yeah. But they still tell me no. I'm like, no, you can't drive this car. I'm like, hold on a second. I own like
50
9 Ferraris. But yeah, and that's, and it's amazing because manufacturers will call us, Nissan, Acura, those types of manufacturers will call us and say, hey, we're not allowed to let our customers, anybody walk in and test drive a GTR. How am I going to sell a GTR? And I say, you send me to the racetrack, I'll let them test drive my GTR.
That's an idea too.
Cars there. But you're right. I mean, we want to make this the reason why we do this is because we want to allow you the opportunity to change your life, to do something cool you've never been able to do before.
Yeah, I mean, gift giving season's coming up pretty soon here. So if you know somebody who's a car fanatic who just has wanted to go on a race car, you want to give them a cool gift, and I'll speak to the girls watching now. Get them a gift like this. It's about as cool of a gift as you're going to be able to give them, and they're not going to be able to experience anything like that ever again. Josh Balicki just commented. He said, great to see you both chatting. I work part-time for Extreme Experience, and it's such a great group of guys and gals. Josh, we love watching you drive. I am dying for Josh to be put into the fastest car in the field, because I know Josh would be a front row driver the moment that he's in something. And he made a post the other day, and I know he's had some incredible opportunities, but poor guy's car's a little too heavy, and he's on used equipment, so he does the best he can.
Josh, I'll give you my shout out from Road America last year when it comes to equipment, it started to rain, and we didn't have rain tires. And so Josh's dad and we all kind of powwowed together, and someone had to go run to the store and get rain tires. So you got a lot of fans, man, and I know that you're going to keep doing great stuff. I'm glad you're part of the Extreme Experience family, and that's how racing works. People think on the surface it's all this glamorous stuff, but it's a lot of work that goes into the back end of it, whether you're on his level or you're on our level. You
know what I love about racing in general and just the whole atmosphere? The camaraderie is high. Everybody's super cool, and it's a big industry, but it's not that big. It's pretty small. Yeah, and everybody's really nice. I've had one or two things I've seen at tracks that haven't been friendly, but in 20 years of doing it, even this year, I had brake problems at Road America, and rival teams were, hey, we have these parts. We'll get you these parts to put me back on the track where I was going to be potentially beating one of their drivers, but they just didn't want to see me not have the equipment.
Yeah.
So, that sort of camaraderie, you just don't see that in a lot of different sports.
No, it's really cool. I mean, back in the day when we started this thing, there would be times when something would break on one of my cars, and I would have customers who would go to the store and get it for me because they wanted to, hey, I want to whip your GTR on the track. What do you need? A pad? I can run AutoZone. My buddy owns the shop. Or, it was really cool to see this is a community. This is a family. And it goes way deeper, and there are stories that could go on forever about the people that are involved. like our instructors, like Josh, and just the really cool things they do for each other out there.
Is Nissan coming out with a new GTR? Something crazy, because it's kind of...
I heard it's definitely getting a facelift, and it's definitely getting a little bit of a tune. I don't know. I don't have any insider information.
I was going to say, maybe you have it since you guys buy the cars.
I don't have any insider information on what the next refurb is going to be capable of or look like doing. Believe it or not, and maybe you'll believe it, but the support that I get from manufacturers, if you're listening, is minimal. It's taking a lot of, especially the high-end manufacturers, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, to look at our organization and say, no, this is perfectly what I intended these cars to be used for. Let's support these guys.
Yeah, they should.
But instead, obviously, the viewpoint is this is for the 1%, not for everybody, and I'm kind of going against the grain on that one. So it's taken a lot of convincing to kind of say, hey, cooperation is a good thing in this industry. Let's not be enemies.
I never thought of what you said about how if somebody's looking to buy these cars and you want to drive them to really see how they perform, you can't do, like, let's say you want to buy one from Chicago, go to McLaren Chicago, and you're like, hey, I want to test drive like a fast car, or you go even out to any of the dealerships. I mean, the guys at Chicago Motor Cars, I'm buddies with them, Perrin and those guys. They're really close buddies.
Is Perrin listening? Omar,
he
you
might be.
listening?
Oh, yeah, Omar. Yeah,
Omar, I need to talk to
Omar's
you.
making a lot of Facebook live videos right now, or
tell
Instagram
Omar
videos.
you need to sell cars to support the URR, man.
Yeah, those are great guys, and I've bought a lot of cars from Perrin and from Omar and stuff, and those guys are great about letting. I probably shouldn't say this. A bunch of people are going to come.
If you want it, where do you go to test drive your cars?
Where do you go to test drive cars?
Chicago Motor Cars.
Chicago Motor Cars now, but for the most part, you can't. But let's say you even go to Chicago Motor Cars and you want to take a 488 out and drive it, and Perrin or Omar are nice enough to let you do that. You're going to get pulled over like Omar does every other day. Like, I've been pulled over twice next to Chicago Motor Cars. They know every asshole is about
and
to
we know. I mean, I've
around.
said it in so many promotional videos that we know why these cars were built, and we know what you want to do with them. We just found the way to let you do that.
Yeah, and if you do want a 488, and even if you had a 488 and you're like, hey, I want to go see the true difference between 458 and a 488, and if it's worth me spending the $100,000 depreciation that just happened between those two cars, spend $350 and come drive the car at the Autobahn or wherever you guys are at that point, and then you get to see if it's worth spending $100,000. I never thought about that. Manufacturers should really push that, because you don't get a real good feel driving, and even a GT3. If I went to the Exchange and I'm buddies with those guys, or the Isringhausens, if I went down to Springfield and I wanted to drive one of those cars, I won't really get a feel for how cool it is over a base 911. But if I got 3 laps in it at Autobahn, I'm going to be like, okay, this is worth my extra spend.
Yeah, we do see that. Because, I've seen all types of Ferraris roll into the parking lot. Even if they own the car they're going to test drive.
Yeah.
Because before they track theirs, real quick, come track mine.
Yeah.
See what it can do, what it feels like, and then you can decide.
Make you pay for the ceramic brakes that are stupid expensive on those cars.
That's on me. And you know what? I look at those guys, I'm like, yo, you are in the right place. I look at those girls, you're in the right place. So come test drive mine and decide if you like yours, if you want to get a new one, or if you're happy with your M3 and you're just here for the day.
Yeah. Omar is probably getting pulled over right now.
Probably, because he's listening to this.
Yeah, he's well, no, now his car drives. He's got a Tesla now. It just drives itself.
He would. Did he get married yet, or when's that?
No.
That's why he's got a Tesla.
He's got a Tesla 3. I think he's got to get married soon.
Put a car seat in the back of that.
Yeah. Omar's going to be commenting
Good.
pretty soon
I
here.
Hope he listens to that.
He's got that goofy looking wing on his that AMG GTS. He put that.
Yeah, he did.
I'm sorry, it's a stupid looking wing. I'll go and say he had the Viper and he had the crazy functional crazy wing, and now he's got this sweet looking AMG GTS that was Waylon's old car, and now he's got.
That's right.
He's got that crazy wing on it.
But see, family. It's a family.
Yeah, it is family. Like we're making fun of him right now, and it's a small family of people, and that's another thing. If you want to get involved in the car culture, this is a great way to do it. Go out there, meet people who are car people, and they're going to know somebody else.
We always say that the if you take away anything from our experience, let's take out the deep car culture that we just kind of started to dive into. But if on Friday you're sitting at your desk and on Monday you're back at your desk, but all of a sudden you know what a late apex is or understeer is, all of a sudden you're having a conversation with somebody you weren't having a conversation with on Friday. Right. And that's what's really cool about this whole thing. I mean, it is, you don't have to become the pro overnight. You don't have to even try. But all of a sudden, this new level of this new world that you didn't know existed, you suddenly became a portional part of.
I bet you 30 minutes, even in your classroom, makes you so much more effective of a driver. Even like in Chicago when it snows,
In life,
I used to take, my sister, family members out when it used to snow, and I used to teach them just the basics of what happens when you're driving a car and you lose some traction. Just being able to spend that $350, set aside the amazing experience you get at a cool location, you will be a much more effective driver just spending that day with you guys.
I mean,
a safer driver.
Here's one. It's a free one. Where you look, the car will go. There you go.
Yep.
Just practice.
Yep.
That's it. We'll leave the rest for the next interview.
Yeah.
But it's so simple. And on the racetrack, you have to use it all at one time because you're going real fast in a real expensive car. But it's life, too.
Any favorite track location? Any locations you love vacationing at, or any favorite track locations?
Well, Nicole was on before I was from Tahoe, which is where my bachelor party was.
Oh,
so
cool.
I won't get into those stories.
Yeah.
No track that
That's
I'm
okay.
familiar with.
I was in Vegas this
in
weekend.
Tahoe, so. But on our honeymoon, we went to Dubai and then swung through Abu Dhabi. So if you're ever in that direction, now I'm talking the other side of the world, and I'll come back to the United States in a second. Go to Ferrari World because it's called Ferrari World, and it's right next to the Yas Marina. So of course, my wife looked at me and said, "How much time do you need to test a Ferrari?" And I said, "It should only take a couple hours, right?" But she knew I had to do it because I was there.
Yeah.
So driving in Europe and the Middle East, that's crazy and awesome and exotic. So if you can do that and you're out there, don't pass up the opportunity to drive the Autobahn, the Nürburgring, or one of the F1 circuits. Do it. Coming back to the United States, obviously we have a permanent location in New Orleans. It's a fast straight. It's a fun back. It's a beautiful tourist destination, so you can make a whole trip out of that, which is why we chose to set up an operation there. If you can drive with us in Atlanta Motorsports Park is a lot of fun.
Yep.
2 miles of elevation changes and kind of the foothills of the Appalachians is if you've never gone up, don't forget, every hill you go up blind, you have to come down blind, and you're going real fast. So that's a lot of fun to drive. The East Coast is got a lot of fun, Pocono or New Hampshire or Lime Rock or Monticello or VIR. It's so much cool stuff on the East Coast that you can just bounce around. I mean, I'll hit a couple tracks in a day, and they're still building new tracks out there.
Yep.
That's definitely a favorite of mine. And then you can head out to the West Coast, and everything's just kind of
crazy.
It's flat and dry. Or you've got really complicated tracks like Laguna Seca, which we don't do because it's too dangerous for our program, and we've kept it that way. But I say visit us in Atlanta, New Orleans. Or
you guys do Road America.
We do Road America. We were just there last weekend. That's
it's hometown for me, so it's my favorite.
That's a bucket list track. That's one of our favorite tracks. It's a fast track. And there's the Cheese Castle on your way home.
And Elkhart Lake is a fun town.
It is a fun town.
We have a place at the Osthoff, so I go up there a lot. Great food, great drinks. That's a town to make a trip from.
I love hanging out at Elkhart Lake. I really do.
I'm a big fan of going out there. But I did a 24-hour karting race in Dubai years ago when I was a teen, but it hadn't developed like it is now. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's crazy there now. That's a bucket list. If I want to do Ferrari World, I do want to drive the Nürburgring. I have a friend of mine that won the 24 hours of the ring this year in a VLN car. So when I sold my car and I said, shout out to Carlos Gomez, I said, I try to figure out what I'm going to do next. He's like, come do endurance racing in Europe, which is apparently much more affordable than endurance racing in the States where you're doing IMSA and Pirelli World Challenge.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I don't have any laps at the Nürburgring, so I have no business at all trying to do a race out there. But that's a crazy. I'm going to do that next year.
That's a bucket list. Our chief marketing officer did it a couple of years ago.
You haven't done it yet?
I haven't done it. No.
Okay.
I just bring it up because it's on. It should
be
It should be on a human being's bucket list.
Yeah.
Even if you just go in a bus and go for a test drive, it is the Nürburgring. Have you ever done COTA?
I've not done COTA, but the series, the VLN series, their 24-hour race is actually in COTA in the U.S. So my hope is that next year, if I do that sort of series, that COTA might be the track I do. But I heard COTA, it's fun depending on what you drive there. So if you don't drive the right car, if you're driving a Miata at COTA, forget about it.
Yeah, it's going to take you a while.
Yeah.
And be really wide open. I would imagine you.
Did you drive COTA?
Lewis Hamilton did really enjoy COTA.
Yeah.
I did, yes. I've driven COTA in a 458. I probably drove that 458 about 82% of its potential, maybe not even, maybe 62%, because that track is so imposing and vast and
fast.
And I mean, just it takes 100 laps to figure out how fast you can go, but check it off.
Well, if you hit anything at that track, it's really expensive. They bill you a freaking big bill.
I'll be honest with you, it doesn't matter which track you're at.
Is that happening everywhere?
Everywhere you go.
Really?
Everywhere you go. There are a lot of different track kind of business mindsets that we go to, and it's really interesting to see. You've got your super corporate tracks like Circuit of the Americas. You've got your private but well-run tracks like Autobahn or Pittsburgh International Race Complex or NOLA Motorsports Park. And then you've got your tracks that were built a long time ago for a different reason that are becoming more popular because programs like ours are coming to them, like Gingerman,
right?
Where all of a sudden they're like, well, we weren't really equipped for 1,000 guests, but now Extreme Experience is here, Grid Life is here. How do we,
Yeah, I'm sure Grid Life made them have to get
right, but their safety team is still riding a golf cart. So,
right.
How does that all kind of come together? And so it's been interesting because kind of the bigger players in the industry, SCCA or IMSA and the tracks they go to, our program have been influential on the tracks that will listen to say, hey, here are some recommendations. We have a safety director who comes out and says, I'd recommend these safety barrier modifications, or you're in the right to bill a program if they destroy this portion of your land because they shouldn't have to destroy that portion of your land or whatever it is. So it's been interesting, but we've influenced that a little bit. I don't think I'm going to build a racetrack anytime soon, but I've got enough knowledge where I probably could run one. I don't want to put $100 million into the ground just right now.
Yeah. That's an expensive and totally different business model. But yeah, it's awesome that you guys go to a lot of those smaller tracks too, because like at Gingerman, I used to go up to Gingerman and do $50 track nights there.
Right,
drive up there, and I don't think those exist anymore, but those were not the safest things.
But that's where we figure our positive influence one way or another
Safety
can make this better for everybody.
I mean, the safety is a big point, and Jim just asked a question. I'll read it to you, and he said, I didn't even read the whole thing yet. I want to ask, it's a buddy of mine, Jim Patak, his handle is James something or another, but it's I want to ask a question, but I'm not sure how to formulate it. Does he have any thoughts about the seeming increase in instructors getting hurt? I think Jim probably may not have jumped in at the beginning of this. I'd imagine with him having a wide variety of students, much wider variety than students you and I have had, does he have to do anything special or different that works to keep students in check and instructor safe? Jim may have came in kind of at the tail end of it, but I don't know if you want to touch on it.
I could touch back on that because it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I look at our instructors every day and I say, my hat is off to you for taking the time to give up your steering wheel and your brake pedal and really sit next to someone who wants to enjoy this, but, has very little, they have a 20-minute classroom potentially and a helmet with a chatterbox, and that's all the qualification that they have. So how do you stay safe? How do I keep you safe? Let me know what I can do to invest in you. And we found right now that the biggest thing that our instructors ask of us is that we do and we implement that mentorship program that we've talked about, because they know that there's the group who's doing it now. That group ensures that the communication between the classroom and on track is exactly the same. So when they communicate with the student is not hearing it for the first time. Exclusive responsibility for safety is not just in the right-hand seat, but it's a portion of our marketing team who sends out track layout maps and sends out video flybys and stuff. So you could be watching content prior to your drive. When you get there, you sit through the classroom and you go through it again. Then you ride in that Chevy SS and you see the track with the lead instructors who have the most tenure. Then you finally get to your car. So all these things are implemented and designed to keep you safe and let your instruction be the most effective. I mean, we completely understand out there that, like we touched on as well, the cars are getting faster. And so part of the safety is us knowing which cars to put in the program and quite honestly, which cars not to. And if our instructors and our safety directors get together and make recommendations, I listen to them.
I mean, kudos to you guys because, and I'm going to say this, and Jim might be okay with me saying this, but some people listening who I know really well who are instructors at local clubs are probably not going to be thrilled with this, but it is what it is. What you just explained, you guys go 1,000 times higher in training of your instructors than the local clubs do. I feel like, again, I went to, and I don't do a lot of HPDEs or high performance driving events anymore, but I've instructed some. Sean Young's Event Labs Inc. is incredible. He does a very good job of training his instructors to be good instructors like you guys do. But there are a lot of them, and it's even the clubs like BMW, Porsche Club, and I'm a part of the Porsche Club. I'm an instructor there. So sorry to my buddies who are, on the board and stuff, and they listen to this all the time. The instructor pool is not talented. They don't know what they're doing. They just have had 10 more track days than the guy they just put in the car, and they can't communicate, and they can't effectively figure out how to keep somebody in check. And what you guys are doing, I think, for your instructors is amazing, but also for the people driving the cars, because if your instructors keep the driver safe, in turn, the instructor safe, because nothing's going wrong.
Works,
right?
It's
when shit goes wrong in a car, it goes wrong for both people sitting in there. And your level of being able to effectively train an instructor, the local clubs, most of them at least, minus, I got to give it to, and I haven't been to every club's, I know Chin and all these places, they do a lot of them, and I haven't been to any of their events, so they could be doing a very effective job. I think most of the manufacturer clubs, no offense, do a really shitty job of it. And I think it's dangerous, but to their point, they have 40 people who need somebody to ride along with them at once, and they just don't have enough people to fill 40 seats with. And I think the answer for them is they need to go spend some money and bring in people and effectively pay, or start a program every year where they're training the people who want to be, because everybody wants to be like, oh, I'm a racing instructor, like it's like the cool thing, like even when they don't race cars.
I want to say it. I'm an astronaut or a race car driver.
Yeah,
I get it.
But they want to be like, like I instruct racing schools, and some people are pro drivers, like the guys and gals that you have, and there's just some people who want to go back to the water cooler and say, this weekend I was a racing instructor.
The problem with that, and the problem with the industry, is that it's still evolving at a very rapid pace. If you look at it 20, 30 years ago, when these tracks like Gingerman were being built and Circuit of the Americas were a figment of our imagination, the racing industry was, if you had the money and you bought the car, you took the risk, like, do your thing. And now that the cars are evolving and there are programs like ours, and not being a race car driver myself, I'm kind of commercializing the aspect of racing in a whole new way. And sure, there have been Skip Arbors and stuff around for a while, and they have all the credit in the world for doing that. But the more light we put on the ability to go out and do this, the more responsibility we have to deliver our people and our cars and our customers safely back in every time. And, if we don't take that responsibility seriously and do it together as an industry, then it's not going to last. And, whether we were motivated by it in the beginning because we had really expensive cars I didn't want to bang up, and my philosophy was, if you don't bang up the car, you don't bang up the person inside the car, or whatever, we really now acknowledge the fact that even a Ferrari can be replaced, but I can't replace you.
Sure.
And so it's my responsibility to not have to. And we all have to take that responsibility. And if you can't, then take a step back before you hurt somebody. Evaluate your program, make the appropriate investments, call us, let's work together, and then let's roll out a safer program for everybody.
No, it's awesome, and it's amazing what you guys do, because it's not out there. I've instructed enough racing schools to know it just doesn't exist. From the standpoint of local racing schools, again, I'll give Sean all the credit in the world, because his program is just very top notch, very different than what you guys do, because everyone's bringing their own cars and doing that, and the students are very, very fast, and they're not driving 488s and Lamborghinis and GTRs. But I think, to answer Jim's question, again, long-winded, what you guys are doing and what Sean's doing with Laps is you're truly instructing your instructors to be effective racing instructors.
It starts there.
And it's not, there's not a lot of it out there. So good for you guys. We went over, didn't we, John? Yeah. John's like, you guys went way over. I mean, I could go on and on and on with this guy. Save 50 now is the promo code for this weekend's Autobahn experience that you guys have. Like he mentioned earlier in the show, you guys can go on their website. John's been running it on the screen a bunch of times. We'll also put it in the comment section. If you don't go this weekend, buy gifts for significant others over the holidays, birthdays, whatever sorts of anniversary gifts you guys need to buy, because it really is the coolest experience. I'm a car geek, and I love racing. It's my favorite thing in the world. So when we knew you were coming on, I got real geeked out by it. But I mean it, and I'm not just saying it because he's on and in front of me right now. You cannot have an experience like this for that sort of money, and there is not a damn way you're ever going to be able to buy that car and drive it on the track without spending a shit ton more money. I didn't even talk about how much it costs to insure a 488 just for one day on the track, but it's way more than $350. Because if you want to do a high-performance driving school with a car that's even a fraction of the price, if you wanted to take an M3 out on the racetrack, and an M3 is a great car, you, through a private insurance company, will spend $500 to $700 to insure that car for one day. So what you guys are giving them is an experience that nobody else is ever going to be able to give them. And John's about to tell me that I forgot to ask something about advice for entrepreneurs, because
that's what this is all about,
so it's
right?
all about. You and I would have just talked about cars. John's like, just talk about cars for the next 3 hours. But I love cars, man.
This is about entrepreneurship, and that's kind of the fun part. Is we design the program, whatever. So we're excited about it, and if you're a pro racer or not, we've had them all. Come test drive the program. We'll find a way to make it exciting for you. For entrepreneurs who don't care about cars or are just interested in how to get this thing going, I kind of circle back to a couple real simple morals of our story all along, which was I went into it a little bit blind, or a lot of it blind, not being a race car driver. But that key it gave me was that I never overthought anything. I didn't overthink how difficult this would be. I didn't overthink the safety hurdles. I dealt with them as we came across them. But I just said, you know what? I hear people want to do it. Can I be the guy to deliver it? And I said, I'm going to be the guy. And then I jumped. And I said, Autobahn, I'll be there. And I don't have any cars. I don't have any ticket sales. I don't have any marketing experience. But you know what? Between now and then, I'll figure it out. So I jumped, and I built my wings on the way down. And I did all of that with the best team that I could find surrounding me. And, no one entrepreneur makes it very long just being a solopreneur. Build a good team and take those risks. I see too often that entrepreneurs put together a really lengthy business plan, flip through the pages, edit the pictures, go to FedEx, put a new cover on it, flip through the pages again. Where a real entrepreneur is, he's already started, and he's scribbling his notes down and his lessons about what he learned along the way. So if you're thinking about it, just try it. Worst case scenario is you end up back on your couch.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. I mean, really well said. And yeah, what's the worst that happens? You want to call it failure, you'll learn from it, you'll redirect, you'll do something else. Very rarely taking a risk in business will kill you. So if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you a little bit stronger. So
yeah, a knock on wood, just in our industry for what,
I guess
for what
yours
we're
it could.
doing. But totally we started, and
good for you.
And we're taking it forward.
And I read one of your book recommendations is my actual favorite book, Extreme Ownership.
Oh, I thought you say Racing in the Rain.
Oh yeah, actually, that's my favorite favorite fiction book, and they're going to be building a movie out of it.
Most importantly, it's going to star
Patrick Dempsey.
Is it going to star Patrick Dempsey?
I know he's involved in it.
He's involved in it, but isn't the guy from This Is Us? Isn't he in it too?
Oh, I didn't know that.
It might be. If there's two of those guys in one movie, even I won't be able to stay
yeah,
away.
Yeah.
But yes, not only Extreme Ownership is my favorite book. Jocko and Leif do a fantastic job taking what we can only imagine as the most extreme scenarios, applying them to business, and then applying them to life, depending on where you are in that scope. But they just released a new book, The Dichotomy of Leadership. It came out just a couple months ago. I ordered a copy. It's sitting on my desk at my office, and I can only imagine it will be just as motivating as Extreme Ownership, but simple principles on how you're in charge of you.
You are probably the fourth or fifth entrepreneur that has recommended that book on the show, but nobody's recommended The Art of Racing in the Rain, which is the I'm a dog. I mean, I love my dog.
I love
dog.
Racing. I have a daughter. I have a race car.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah. It's a tearjerker, even for like a guy like me who doesn't cry in movies and stuff.
We don't cry, no.
Yeah, you read that book. I cannot wait to watch the movie when it comes out, but you should read the book. The book is amazing.
Life is about balance. If you're going to have a Navy SEAL tell you how to run your business, just make sure you have a fictional dog tell you how to run your life.
Yeah, exactly. That is like the perfect opposite ends of the spectrum, and my two favorite books as well. So thank you so much for coming on again. We could do this over and over again. We'll probably have you back on again, and I'm probably going to come out and drive one of those things because I really want to consider getting a 991 GT3. So
I will be there all day tomorrow. Short notice, but anybody's welcome. Come chat me up. I'd love to talk. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I will be in and out, but either way, our office is in Chicago. So reach out, comment, and I'm happy to continue to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be back next week, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. John, do you have anything else?
I do not. That was a great show.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have this guy in here.
You knew that him and I were going to hit it off.
I did.
Cars.
If it wasn't raining, I had a Huracan lined up to bring here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we could drive. It's all-wheel drive. We
It
could
is
drive
all-wheel
the
drive.
shit out of a
That's true.
Huracan in the rain.
Well, let's get one from Joe at Bentley Gold Coast.
Yeah, I was going to say we could really drive one in the rain. But I will definitely be in touch. And anybody who's watching, this is the perfect gift to get your significant other, even if they're not the craziest car person like I am or like a lot of people who are listening. It's an experience that you will never forget. Listening to the engine of anything, I mean, even the GTR, the Nissan, like we said, to the Ferrari, or hearing a Huracan and getting in that thing and driving it for some laps, it's a crazy experience. That's a crazy experience to go ahead and ride along with your significant other to the track and then let a pro driver just take you out for a few laps.
Yeah, buy the gift for yourself if you're listening.
If you have a love for roller coasters, like I've taken a couple of people out in race cars and they're like, I like roller coasters. There's nothing like this.
So it's a different universe.
Totally different universe. You don't have to wait in line for 3 hours at Great America. Just let a pro race car driver take you out for a few laps.
Come race a Ferrari.
Yeah, come race a Ferrari. Sit with the pro drivers. I had a blast. Can't wait to come out and I'll come drive some of these cars. I think it's a cool experience for somebody who has never done it before or somebody who has driven these cars before. You cannot do it for this price point. There's nowhere you can do it. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.